All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Courtney was not feeling well this morning, so y'all are stuck with me. So we're gonna do the roll call first.
All right, Lee Oliver, Scott Stevens is not gonna be here. Jeff Adams is here. Queen Nunez.
Pete was calling in.
Can see him online just
Okay.
yet. Scott Roberts is not here. John Smith here. Dwayne Montgomery is online.
He's on.
Yep, online. Alan Owens. Not here. Brian Hendricks is online.
I'm online.
Huey Atkins is not here. Terry Cobb is here, and Dr. Smith will not be here. We got 1, 2, 6 out of 13 right now, so you do not have a quorum.
All right. Pete's gonna join, so he just hadn't made it. So why don't we do this and because we need quorum to have an official meeting. But Liz said we need to move up the blood portal discussion because of a timing issue, and that's gonna take a little bit of time. So are they online? Can y'all
Yes,
see?
yeah,
Okay.
ready.
All right, so we'll go ahead and turn that over to them.
Yeah.
You want to introduce them, Liz?
Of course, thank you. Good morning. I see the whole STRAC team. Eric, you've got your entire team on the line. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. You should be able to screen share, but I just wanted to thank you guys for joining and just give this group just a very brief backdrop. A couple months ago, when I was attending the Trauma Center Association of America, Peter Antevi, who many of you might know, he did a great presentation on pre-hospital blood. He serves, and again, many of you know him, he serves as medical director for several services and has really been integral in the proliferation of use of pre-hospital blood, has a lot of great information. And he mentioned a pre-hospital blood registry that's being developed, and several states were involved. Well, I couldn't have mowed him down quick enough after the presentation, because I was like, if someone's figuring out a way to collect data on this, we want to be part of it. Let's get involved. So he connected me with Eric Epley from Southwest Texas Regional Advisory Committee. Eric is the executive director and CEO. We have very similar backgrounds. So, we talked about some of the challenges with collecting data for performance improvement. For some of you who remember the CARES registry for out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, this is very similar, where the hospital has a portion, pre-hospital has a portion, and then there's this great database with the idea to really feedback and really look at outcomes. So I wanted them to Crystal and I heard the initial presentation, so I wanted them to come give this to you guys so we could figure out if this is a good fit. Again, this is just in its starting phases, but Eric, I won't steal your thunder, but I will go ahead and turn it over to you, and feel free to introduce the members of your team who are present, and we're grateful for you guys taking out time of your day to be on the call with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for what a great introduction. Howdy, everybody. My name's Eric Epley, and I'm the director here at STRAC. STRAC is, I think, like your RTACs, we're a regional trauma and EMS system in San Antonio, Texas, and the surrounding 21 other counties. So it's about 26,000 square miles, about the size of West Virginia. We have 71 EMS agencies, 63 hospitals. 2 of those are level 1 trauma, 16 PCI, and 17 stroke centers. 3 of those are comprehensive. We've been doing pre-hospital whole blood since about January of 2018. We started on the helicopter with about 12 units on all of our various aircraft in the region, and then moved in October to ground with San Antonio Fire, and we put 6 units on there. They're up to 8 units now. At present, we have about 70 units in the field across the region, mainly on supervisor vehicles or helicopters, and We rotate that blood. We're using the CPD A1 bag, which gives us the additive, which gives us a 35-day bag. So our rotation process goes 14 days into the field, and then it comes back to the blood provider. In our case, it's South Texas Blood and Tissue, and then it goes to the trauma center, to University Hospital, our lead level 1 trauma center, and they have about 21 days plus or minus to give that blood, and using that rotation method to the field and then back to the trauma center, we've been able to maintain about a less than 2% wastage of our whole blood units, which we are big patrons of the blood, and we want to be good stewards to that donation and make sure that we're doing everything we can to limit wastage. Part of that rotation process, and you can imagine logistics, as you well know, required us to spend some time knowing when something was coming due for their 12, 13, 14-day swap out, all those kinds of things. And STRAC is we're not a huge place. We're not USAA or Microsoft, but we have about 90 employees. We have a 24/7 regional communications center. And we have a full IT department that has 4 full stack devs. We're a little bit I liken us to the skunk works of emergency management. And COVID, we ended up creating a COVID testing process in about 3 weeks that got deployed and did a little over 4.5 million tests for COVID during our field mobile drive-through testing process. So we host our own EMR, our EPCR. We were a Zoll shop for a long time now. We transitioned to ImageTrend, but we're one of the last instances that has finally transitioned into the cloud with Zoll, with ImageTrend. We had our own instance here for a while for the last 2 years. So heavy IT background. We have a full help desk process with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 at SWAT, and host many of our cardiac trauma, stroke registries, et cetera. So in the 89th legislative session, we were asking for $4 million for a pilot to do whole blood across the state of Texas. And the legislature came back and gave us $10 million. So as you guys are probably aware, doing state legislative processes in the history of life, I've asked for $10 million and gotten 4 many times, but I've never asked for $4 million and got 10. And our legislature is very excited about pre-hospital whole blood. As a part of that, I'm the chair of our governor's EMS and Trauma Advisory Council's pre-hospital whole blood task force. Dr. Don Jenkins and Dr. CJ Winkler. Don is a trauma surgeon at University, a retired colonel. I call him the Johnny Appleseed of pre-hospital whole blood. And CJ Winkler is the deputy medical director for San Antonio Fire and many other agencies as well through the Office of Medical Director at UT. So we have, over that past period of time, and those units of blood that are out there, collected, somewhere around 9,000, processed about 9,000 units of blood through our inventory app. And we have administered about 3,500 units across the region in that period of time. So we have a pretty good bit of experience with this. And the app that we use for inventory is it's mature, right? It's processed 9,000 units of blood. We have been named by the state to be the data steward. The word they used was data steward for the pre-hospital pilot that we're doing across the state. And to that end, we realized that there were several operational things that I tend not to think of this as a registry, just so it's clear. I think we're at a place in the United States and in EMS where blood really should be seen as a very small subset of bigger registries. And what we think is important is, we're going to collect some data, but really I want to take care of some operational logistics and outcomes-based issues, especially surrounding performance improvement. So to that end, what we have done is create something we call the blood portal, but blood is capitalized. It's an acronym. It stands for Blood Logistics operations, and outcomes data portal. That's blood. Blood logistics, operations, and outcomes data portal. So as a member of the Quad A, the American Association for the Advancement of Acronyms, I feel pretty good about blood. It was a pretty good one. So the blood portal is designed to help EMS operators and their medical directors to manage pre-hospital whole blood. And oh, by the way, collect some really interesting data, if that makes sense. So I want you to see it more from an operational sense as opposed to almost like CAD for your pre-hospital blood operation, if that makes any sense. So we'll get into it. The first step is that the inventory app that we built, and I want you to see them as two separate but interrelated products. The inventory app is very simple. Ryan, you can go ahead and show.
I'll bring it up.
So this is all works on the phone. It's a web app, so there's nothing necessarily to download, but the medic creates their user account. And it's exactly the things you guys are probably already doing in some way, shape, fashion, or form. Is you have to have an initial receipt of the blood. We use scanning technology. So you see that button in to take the initial receipt of the blood. Now, Ryan's going to simulate this on a blood PDF that he's got, but these are the 4 barcodes that are on a blood bag. And one of them is the blood unique ID. One is the date. I forget all of them.
Expiration date, the donor ID, and then the
provider ID.
Yep.
So as you see, luckily, by the way, all those numbers were different sizes. So it's pretty easy just to scan and stick the 12-digit number in the 12-digit slot, that kind of stuff. So you can also attach an image of the blood unit if you'd like, and then you submit. Well, that unit is now in your inventory app. And then every day you can do an inventory check when you're swapping out your tick pack. That lets us know that they had to be able to scan it, they have to take the blood out of the tick pack, right? So it's sort of a redundancy check to make sure everybody's rotating that blood. It gives an EMS director, the assurance that his medics, it can get complicated if you give a unit of blood at, 4 in the did I swap out the tick pack? Did I not? Did we do that? All those kind of things come into play as we have learned. And by the way, shameless plug, we have a National Whole Blood Academy that we put on. We've done about 20 of them. And many people, including Peter, have attended that and have found that to be beneficial as they're rolling out whole blood in the EMS environment. So now you've done your inventory checks. Well, probably if you're a rural area, you probably haven't given that unit of blood and it needs to be rotated back to be issued, to be administered at the trauma center. So you hit return back to blood provider, and that checks the unit back into the blood provider, and then you can check out your next unit. And you might do that 4 or 5 times before you actually administer that unit of blood. Now, if you're a busier place, if you're San Antonio Fire, they're half as likely to actually issue that blood in that 14-day period than it's not. But some of our, we have some pretty frontier locations in our region. I mean, San Antonio is a big city, but we have places that have more goats than people, right? We have a lot of places that have less than 5 people per square mile. And in those cases, they may have a unit of blood rotated 3 or 4 or 5 times before they have an opportunity to give it. So that's why we think of the inventory app as kind of a separate process dealing with the inventory only aspects. And then, of course, you may have something that turns it unusable. You drop the bag, it overtempt, whatever. If that happens, you scan it, and then there's some, you have to say what happened. The temperature was exceeded, or the blood bag was damaged. And any of those things, they have to also write a narrative as to what in the world happened so that we can discuss that at our regional whole blood committee. But hopefully someday you get to actually give that unit of blood and you hit that big red button at the top that says administer to patient. When that happens, you have the ability to add, we use a NCR whole blood form. And we fill that form out. You see that Ryan just typed in that wristband number. Texas is moving to a statewide EMS wristband. We're doing it for 2 reasons. The first is that on a day-to-day basis, it makes it easier to have a single identifier for that patient. If they're in a rural environment, they get picked up by rural EMS, seen at a rural hospital, they're flown in, and now they're a tertiary, quaternary location. you can tie all 4 of those EMRs together with that wristband number. But more importantly, it's helped us with MCIs and big events like hurricanes, where now we can have the wristbands. If they're using the wristband every day, they'll have the wristband on game day on that dark sky day. And we've seen that really help us at MCIs. In fact, the state has changed their EMS rules for the triage tags. We were required to have 25 triage tags on every truck. And I've been in EMS over 30 years, and I've never used a triage tag. I mean, I've been to tons of disasters. I've never used a triage tag. But we're now able to use the surveyor's tape. We have these little like things you put around your waist, and it's got the 4 colors. If you use the wristband and the surveyor's tape and just tie it on the patient, the state is fine with that in lieu of the triage tag. So that's been very beneficial. Anyway, Brian's going to pick the destination facility that he's transporting to, and then there's a slot for the MRN at that hospital to grab. And then you see where he can attach that blood form. And this form is in triplicate. It's an NCR. You know, we had a young medic. He was 22. He said, well, this form's pretty good, but it sure takes a long time to fill it out 3 times. So we're like, press hard. We got some youngsters. Just press hard, man. It goes through. That's it for you. Anyway, he attaches that form, and then several magical things happen at this moment now. The data that you've been collecting in the inventory app is now pushed through an API into the blood portal, and creates that blood portal record. So you see it right there. It just came in a few seconds ago. And I want you to see the blood portal record as a village raising a child, that there's going to be many people participating in the completion of this blood record. So Ryan, go right back up. Yeah, I just skipped over it. Go up. So we've got the blood administered, the data push into the whole blood, into the portal, and then the case is created. And now we're going to get down to what's going to happen inside the blood portal itself. First of all, the EMS chief gets a text and an email. It says, medic 4 just administered whole blood at, date and time, and, et cetera. The EMS medical director is going to get a text and an email. Hey, medic 4 just administered whole blood. He's going to also, the medical director at that point has a link. And when he clicks that link, it's going to open up the blood portal into that record. The medical director can review that blood form that I just showed you, the piece of paper. And then at the bottom, he gets to e-sign the emergency release paperwork that is required by the AABB and the FDA. If you work in the ER at all, the blood bank won't even give you the blood if you sign that thing, emergency release form. And so that requirement is satisfied at this point. Again, this just highlights why we think the blood portal is really more of an operational and logistics and outcomes product, not necessarily just a registry. So that e-signature then is saved into the record, and the medical director at any time can go in and see all of his records and if he signed all of them or not. And in fact, if he's an EMS medical director for multiple agencies, all those agencies' blood records are in one spot for him to be able to deal with. So he doesn't have to log into ABC EMS and then XYZ EMS to see them. He can see them all under his single login, which the medical directors have found to be very beneficial. I don't know in Georgia if that happens a lot, but in Texas, they can have up to, I think they're limited to 20 or 25. But a lot of the medical directors will have several EMS agencies, so that feature was a big benefit. Simultaneously, when those notifications are going, we also text, email, and fax to the blood bank at the receiving hospital. And what we want to tell them is, O positive whole blood was just given in the field. The patient is in your emergency department right now, and we don't know what their blood type was. We don't know what their blood type was, and you need to be notified of that. And that way they can either send somebody down, they're aware of it, et cetera. And that's, again, a redundancy, because our process is that whole blood form that I showed you. The EMS keeps one copy, the emergency department keeps one copy, and then the third copy goes with the blood bag and the segs and goes up to should go by the ER up to the blood bank for post-administration testing. The problem, I mean, that works about 70% of the time, but we find this pretty regular that the blood bank never actually was notified by the ER. And so this additional notification by text and email and fax is like a redundant process to that blood form paper process. Additionally, after the blood bank itself is notified, we notify the pathologist of the blood bank at that hospital. So there's a medical director over all those blood banks. And we want to notify that medical director. And that text says, hey, FYI, EMS has just dropped off a patient that had pre-hospital whole blood, O positive whole blood administered, and they're in your emergency department right now. And we don't know what their blood type was. And then he signs that document on the portal when he's logged in, right? He gets a link. He signs that says, I acknowledge that I have been notified. That's what the language is plain. And this was driven by our EMS medical directors. That the pathologist says, I acknowledge that I've been notified. There's a patient in my emergency department that received O positive blood, and it's an unknown blood type, and I'm aware of that situation. So we think that's probably the coolest thing out of all this because, at the hemolytic disease of the fetus and newborn is a real risk for somebody who is an Rh negative patient. And we've got to do everything. We want to have sort of a mission zero, like a zero crash rate, like the airlines have, which they don't really. But we want to make sure they have no chance that every time that female in childbearing age or potential childbearing age children, that female is counseled and addressed thoroughly so that we don't have any HDFN problems later on in her lifetime after receiving O positive blood as an Rh negative patient. I had a medical director when I was briefing this one time say, well, what happens if the pathologist doesn't e-sign the acknowledgement? I said, I think that's impressive for you later on. If you say, look, we not only notified the blood bank itself, we notified this, and here's the date and time he got the messages, and he refused to sign it. I don't think that's going to be really defensible. And so we think that we hope that most of the pathologists will sign that document, but if they don't, the EMS medical director can see plainly in the record that the pathologist has not signed it. And that allows the EMS medical director and the chief to address that with that hospital in a more manual and personal way, because they didn't do that kind of automated pathway. The medical director can drive over there and talk to the guy, like whatever he needs to do to make sure that process is done for that patient. So at hour 49 of the patient's admission to the emergency department, the hospital's primary point of contact, that's a generic term, but usually it's going to be the trauma program manager or somebody like that. They're going to get a text and a page, and they have a link in that they open up, and it opens directly up into the record. And they fill out the remaining data fields. So I forgot to mention one thing. That just dawned on me. The EMS data, as soon as the EMS record and EPCR is completed, our blood portal will import a NMSIS extract. So the NMSIS extract goes into the blood portal record, and there's no EMS data entry whatsoever, as long as they have charted effectively in their EMR. So if they're doing a good job in ImageTrend or ESO or whatever, you make those fields mandatory. As a chief, you probably know how to make sure they fill that stuff out. If they fill out their EPCR correctly, there's no more data entry for the EMS side, because that extract is going to handle all of the entry into the blood portal. So now you've got the hospital portion. There's about 30 fields on either side of this equation, 30 EMS blood fields and 30-ish, about 32 maximum hospital fields. The hospital actually varies between about 18 fields up to 32 based on the answers. So as the hospital's filling this out, if the patient, there's like questions like live, die, did they get any more blood in the ER? If so, what type of blood? How many units of blood? all the things that we need, on the EMS side, I think, to have a better understanding of how the patient did based on that. We include all the vital signs in the ER as well, and that will give us this post administration and hospital administration blood vital signs. And then there's disposition. To give you an idea, my wife is the assistant director for PD trauma and burns at university at our level 1. And so when we were developing this several months ago, I sent her a prototype because I just wanted to get an idea how painful this would be. And so we didn't even teach them how to log in. We didn't even they had to create their own user accounts from scratch. And then we sent them a couple of records, and she and her colleague who's over the adult trauma side, they filled out 2 records each. And then I called them. I was like, how did it go? And they said it wasn't bad. I mean, it took us about 10 or 15 minutes, and, we figured it out. We could probably do it faster in the future. If we had to do this 2 or 3 or 4 more times, we probably can do it in, under 10 minutes. It's not too painful. So that encouraged us to think the hospitals will probably be willing to enter that, especially given the dynamic between EMS now. And this is definitely part of in Texas, hospitals and by trauma rules are required to provide EMS follow-up. And our medical directors feel like this is the quintessential EMS follow-up that we need, is the information they would provide in the blood portal. When they complete those 18 to 32 questions and click save, the EMS chief, let me back up. I missed another step too. When the pathologist has e-signed it, the EMS medical director and the EMS chief get a text and a page that says the pathologist at the hospital has acknowledged receipt that he is aware of the patient in the ER that got O positive blood. When the hospital completes their portion of the record, again, the EMS chief, the EMS medical director, and your clinical supervisor, educator, whoever that person is that does a lot of your performance improvement, probably, the medical director and that clinical supervisor will get a link. But this link actually goes to another section of the blood portal that opens up performance improvement forms. And those performance improvement forms help. They have all the data is already pre-loaded for them, but they get to go through and go, did this meet criteria? There's the vital signs. Yes. Did they administer the blood properly in the right way? Yes. You can get to click through all those performance improvement forms and then save that. Those performance improvement forms are now bundled with that record as well. So now at this point, you've got all the EMS records from the inventory app. You've got the emergency release documentation signed by the medical director. You've got all the notification time hacks, delivery times of when people were notified. And you've got the pathologist's acknowledgement that he's aware of the patient in the ER. And now additionally, the performance improvement capabilities as well are all kind of bundled up in that single patient record. The final performance improvement thing we're trying to get after, this is not built out yet, but it'll be coming in a few months, is that we're going to be getting a report from the lab when they give emergency release blood and there was not EMS blood given. In other words, why was this patient given emergency release blood in the ER, but they didn't get it in the field? Well, maybe the blood wasn't available, and that shows us, why we need more blood in the field. Or maybe it was a swing and a miss and the medics didn't pick up on it. Or maybe they were doing a subclavian and nicked, an artery, and the patient that happened in the ER. The patient was fine until they started messing with him and created the problem for him to need emergency release blood in the ER. But whatever the reason is, at least we'll be able to know that. That's not in there today, but that's coming pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm going to pause there and see if you have any questions.
Questions from anybody in the room or anybody online?
While you're thinking about that, we've been working with Scott Branny. Dr. Branny is an EMS medical director in Colorado, and he heads up their Colorado statewide blood coalition, and they're going live on the product now as the state of Colorado. We have talked with Steve Stephen, the guys down at Florida Department of Health, and Peter Antevi, who leads the State Blood Coalition, and they're going to be coming online as well. And we've been in discussions with Dr. Matt Levy in Maryland at Johns Hopkins, and I have a demo yet to do with their thing, but their state EMS director was very excited about it and wants to get the buy-in of they have 9 counties giving blood right now. That demo is coming up, and then I think Maryland will be on board as well. And we'd love to see you guys come on board as well. My goal, just so it's really clear, is I think this ought to be nationwide. I think that we don't need to have 50 state registries that push up to a national registry, and it takes us 2.5 years to change a field. If we do this, and the way I'm thinking about it, we actually think that NHTSA or somebody should basically kind of sponsor this and do it for everybody in the state. I mean, all states basically for free. That would be a gift, I think. It's only 60 fields. It's not an EMR. It's 60 or less fields about a very unique thing in blood. And if we were able to do it all in one product, in one blood portal, then any changes we would make, everybody would get quickly and not have to wait 2.5 years for a NMSIS, field to be changed. And it's 2029 before we see the new field. So I've been pretty open about that and have had discussions with some of the federal partners about that. And I think there's interest there.
Questions, comments, y'all?
Our main goal, as you can tell, we were really trying to tackle logistical and operational issues at an EMS operator and an EMS medical director. I'm sorry. We were trying to tackle those issues. The fact that we collect a bunch of cool data for somebody to do some research, that's great, but I need to do my performance improvement. I need to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the patient and that we're able to keep up with where our blood is and how it's going operationally. And the fact that it collects some cool data that the research people will love, I'm happy for that. I just don't want to do a bunch of products where all I'm doing is collecting data for somebody else to do some research. I hate that. I want to do something that's meaningful for EMS at the operational and senior leadership level. I either did really, really good or I hate it. Oh, it's hard to.
We're all pondering here, Eric.
It's a lot of good information. I'm gonna pause for just 1 second. We had 2 members join after we did roll call, so I believe we're now at quorum.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to get that on the record that we're not quorum for the meeting. So thank you.
Is anybody using any kind of handheld because you have.
We
the
are,
hospital
yeah.
blood. Are you using some kind of handheld, something to scan
We are.
in currently?
We're using a product called Bloodcom.
Delta.
Oh, Delta. Oh, I forgot to mention that we have their API right now. We've been working with their developers, and this app, our blood portal will be fully integrated with Bloodcom Premium.
All right.
That'd be great.
That's all I need to do.
Because we scan it from the time we pick it up.
Yep.
From our center, and then we scan it all the way through the process, basically.
Yeah.
And it gives us alerts of when it's
Yeah.
expiring. You can set those up within some parameters because we've got a return process as well. So
1000%. Our app will do all those temperature notifications as well. But candidly, I think theirs is sexier. I think we're swapping at STRAC. We will still continue to support our inventory app because Colorado and some other places are like half and half on Bloodcom and they need our app. So we're going to continue to support ours. But I'm just telling you, internally, we just bought 55 ice, 2.2 liter ices, and we're going to be swapping a Bloodcom Premium lock, stock, and barrel for all of our 70 deployments. So we've definitely made sure that we can put that the Bloodcom Premium app, when you hit administer, it will also do the same thing that our app will and create that blood portal record.
yeah, we've really liked it, and it's been relatively simple to use. And the folks that are responsible for it are on a day in and day out basis. It had a learning curve to begin with, but they really embraced it, and it's worked well for us. And it gives great notifications and great cold chain and everything else with it too. Matt?
The The thing that we were finding with us is that we were doing all the rest of the blood administration processes manually. We had a spreadsheet, for God's sakes. It's like, it's just, it's 2026. What are we doing? We got to be able to figure this out. We're making a little bit more. And so when the state, we did this big $10 million thing, we're like, this is the time we've got to build the rest out and be able to notify the pathologist, notify the blood bank, track the data that we need to do performance improvement from the emergency department data, all that stuff. And some people are talking about, well, maybe we can get that out of the trauma registry. I'm like, maybe 70%, 60% of the information, but there's still gaps. And what are you going to do for? I don't know what y'all's percentages are, but we found about half our patients are medical. I mean, they're either OB or GI. So it's like the trauma registry isn't going to help us with the GI bleed. I mean, we're going to have something that says,
look at it.
Yeah.
On the hospital side, the primary point of contact will have the ability to delegate that completion of the record to somebody else, like an L&D nurse. Like if the patient went straight up to the OB, the trauma nurse is not going to want to fill all that out. But she could add an L&D nurse, and the L&D nurse would then fill it out. And you could add several of those other, I'll call them secondary points of contact inside the hospital. So we still think the primary point of contact needs to see all records no matter what, just so there's kind of a single belly button at the hospital. But being able to parse out the records that went to the regular ER or that went to the labor and delivery will lower that load. So there's been some skepticism. We talked to a lot of we have in Texas, we have these level 3 and 4 calls, then we have level 1 and level 2 trauma coordinator calls. And we've been on all of those, Dr. Jenkins and I, and we haven't really had a bunch of pushback from this. I mean, the volume is just pretty low. San Antonio Fire runs about 165,000 runs a year. They gave 300 units of blood last year. I mean, right? So it's like 165,000 runs. They only gave 300 units. And so if you divide that among our 26 hospitals, 300, it's just, you may get one of these a week. You may get one every other week. It's just not going to be a lot of volume. And we think that there's a lot of interest around this and that the hospitals will be willing to fill it out.
And Eric, like we talked about up front with the CARES registry, and I mentioned to you that was my other duties as described as the trauma program manager. Like it's low enough volume that I think it's reasonable. A lot of us double dipped with that, and again, it's just a very limited data set, and it's a data set that I think everybody would be really interested in. So I agree with you. From the hospital side, I don't think we could start the conversation with our trauma administrative group to just kind of make sure that they would be on board with, you're going to be the point of contact, because to Eric's point, you've got to have that one person. You can't, I mean, that one person within their organization, I guess they could decide if they wanted to appoint someone else. But I think if we took it over, knowing that even though it's a lot medical, we've already established that there's a lot of medical uses for it. I think in general, it's coming forward as a big initiative because of trauma.
We also, Liz, we also will be working on dashboards for the hospital as well, right? To give them some perspective of all the patients they receive with blood from all the different agencies. We will have, sort of the reverse dashboards, right? So EMS will have dashboards that show their operations. We'll have the same dashboard in reverse for the hospitals from all the EMS agencies that are dropping off to them. And about the blood that they've been given in the field.
Great. And so from a logistics standpoint, because it already sounds like some folks are on handheld applications that are already integrated with what you're doing, does it make sense that we could have, if there were a couple services interested, that they could participate in this? Or tell us what that looks like if there was interest here.
Yeah, you betcha. So we expect the BloodCom Premium API integration we're working on this data. It's the only thing they're really focused on.
Yeah, within the next month.
Within the next month, we think it'll be live. It's pretty straightforward. It's not scary. It's just work. And the NEMSIS extract is live already. at least we're pulling from Image Trend. We have 70 agencies in Image Trend in our instance, and that's working today. We expect that we have beta users in the blood portal now. We could put agencies from Georgia in as beta users now just to play around in it today. The simplest way until the BloodCom Premium API is online, they would need to manually enter the EMS data. We give them some fake patients. We have it's a long story. We use Pulsera here. We have a statewide contract for Pulsera, and so we developed. I'll ship you. Can we send it to Liz? A couple of examples of that real quick. Or Brian, do you have access to bring one up on the? So what it is an 8.5, 11 by piece of paper, and it has our wristband. It has a patient info and like a red, yellow, green patient with their injuries and stuff. And it's meant to be for like a staff meeting. You can just hand out a bunch of these, and there's a QR code to give them instructions for the medic, but it helps them do the Pulsera MCI function where they can, take a headshot of the patient and a full body picture and then enter in the complaint and make them red or yellow or green and then save. And so we have our EMS directors now at a staff meeting or whatever. They'll just go out to the station floor and they'll throw 30 of those out on the floor and say, get after it, guys. And everybody has to walk around and scan. It even has because Pulsera will scan the driver's license. It has a picture of their driver's license as well. So they can scan here it is. So basically this has the ID badge at the top, that's their driver's license. They scan that. It's got the triage color. This is sort of to remind them to take a picture of the patient's head and shoulders, but also to take a full body, because we've seen in some of the active shooters at schools, identifying the children with what they were wearing has become really important. And this is just designed to build their muscle memory. It's like scan the wristband, scan the driver's license if they have one, and then enter the information and move on to the next patient. And so is this on our website? But it's not live yet. It'll be soon.
Yep.
Okay. But we can ship these in like groups of 50 or 100, and it gives, this is what we use to do. The reason I was saying that is we use that document for the beta users to be able to enter patients in with some information, and then they can see how the portal works.
Hey, a quick question. I'm limited familiarity with that product. If you don't have a driver's license, can you manually enter a name, or what's the?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. It's just like an EMR. You can fill out, name, date of birth, address, all that stuff if you want to, or you can leave it unknown and just keep moving. If it's an MCI, that may be fine, but having that wristband, our full belief is, in fact, in September of this year, EMS rule will require EMS to put a wristband on every transported patient, because our belief is if you don't do it every day, you're not going to do it on the busiest day of your life. But if you do it every single day, you have a better, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but you have a better chance. They probably have their blood pressure cuff. They probably have their stethoscope in their gloves because they use them on every call. And we're hoping that that'll be the same thing with the wristband. We've had pretty good, we have some racks that are at 100% already. We're not quite there. We're at about 68. The data I saw last month was like 68% compliance.
A couple more questions.
Yes.
Georgia, you can go to an electronic driver's license, I believe in 2027. So like Apple Wallet, you can have your driver's license embedded in that and use that for law enforcement and other legal means. Does this app account for that? Is it able to transfer it from like Apple Wallet?
We haven't even thought about it, but it's on Ryan's
Yeah. You just piqued my interest. Yeah. Texas, I look like every 3 months, when is Texas going to support it? Because I personally just want one. But yeah, we can definitely start looking at
that. Georgia's phased it in, and I believe it's law enforcement has until 2027, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to accept it.
Yeah. So if I'm imagining it's working like Apple Pay and the rest of it's using NFC capability to transmit that. So you just touch it. And that should be a pretty straightforward thing. We have experience with that. We have smart cards here that we use, and there's a way we're using our smart cards to log into stuff now through NFC. You just touch the smart card to your phone, and that gives you that digital certificate. So that seems like that should be pretty straightforward. But I would bet there may be some, I don't know, we'll check into it. Well, but thank you for that. That's a good idea. Our goal, by the way, would be to have, if the feds will pick this up and support it for all states, we believe there would need to be some type of governance structure where every state would have, equal representation to the products, sort of where it's headed, new feature requests, all that kind of stuff. That would have to be in place, or else I think people really wouldn't like it.
I've got a question about so outcomes. I abhor data for the sake of data and paralysis by analysis. It makes me bonkers. So what has been, from what you've gathered, what's been the thing from your data sets that stood out the most that you didn't expect? And then what have you done about it?
Really good question. And we're similarly aligned. We're similarly aligned. It's just sometimes people just lock themselves up looking at stuff and you go, so what? We're still going to get aspirin adjustment. Like, we're not changing anything. The one that I'll talk about recently, we did PI review using our data, and we looked at patients at the trauma center. So Dr. Jenkins said, I want to review 35 patients. He hoodwinked us. So everybody, all the EMS directors are in the room, medical directors, and he says, I want to look at 35 patients. And so we go through and he says, and do y'all have poll everywhere? You know, the thing like where you type yes, no, and a little bar graph goes up and down, kind of live. So we're all sitting in the room and he shows this patient. It's like, 18-year-old male, gunshot wound to the leg, vital signs, 88 over 62, heart rate 130. And everybody looked at that and then went, you just had to vote yes, no, should that patient receive whole blood in the field? And we're like, so you see the bar graph, we get through it, and we had 35 patients, and either 32 or 33 of them were like 99% of us agreed, or that patient met criteria to receive blood in the field. And there were two or three that were equivocal. They were like 60-40, it's kind of like they were like in-betweeners. Okay, fine. He says, now, what I'd like to tell you about these 35 patients is we pulled these because they were patients that came after receiving whole blood in the field and were discharged from the ER. They were discharged home from the ER. So the fascinating part of that is you might think, hey, a patient that received blood in the field and got discharged from the ER, maybe that's a patient that shouldn't have gotten whole blood, right? In other words, maybe we were a little zealous with it. And I just couldn't believe some of those patients actually went home. And so what we're finding is patients that receive blood quicker do way better and get less blood in the trauma center. We have a paper on this on our website that was published in either Journal or Transfusion. University Hospital in 1 year saved $980,000 because they just gave less blood to patients that received blood in the field. So those are two examples I would give that came out of this. I think it was helpful. Now, the blood paper, the one where they looked at the costs, we had additional information that are not in the blood portal because we looked at the blood bank and how much they follow the patient further into the course of stay. But those are two good kind of recent examples that they're just in the last 60 days.
And I keep hearing whole blood, whole blood, whole blood. But we don't use whole blood at our entity currently. We'll use plasma and PRBCs, as in mortality is still the same. I'm assuming that this software, it can handle a blood product, correct? Yes. It doesn't matter. It's just okay.
Yep. And there's two studies that just came out, comparing those. We're excited about those studies. People said, oh, it's not any better. I'm like, yeah, it's not any worse, and it's easier to give. So get out of my face, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Take a challenge. Our blood center has the Velico spray dried plasma machine that's under review by the FDA. Our plan is that we would have 2 units of spray dried plasma on every ambulance in the state. When that product comes out, and you can have it for up to a year at room temperature and 2 years if it's kept cool, I think our goal at the Pre-Hospital Whole Blood Task Force is to recommend that we have 2 units of spray dried plasma. So long story short, yes, the blood portal does support blood products in the field as well as whole blood.
Any questions online?
So I'll cut to the chase with this. We don't really have a business model to sell this. Okay, we're very early. We're deploying this statewide in Texas as we speak. We're going to be deploying it in Colorado shortly. They already have the inventory app and they'll have the blood portal app in the next couple of months by the end of summer. All we're really looking from y'all is that you're interested in this and want to be able to utilize the blood portal. We're just trying to build momentum with the feds to say, hey, feds, here's 5 states that are giving a fair amount of blood, and they all like this one idea. And can you please just support it and let's roll it out? I mean, they're about to roll out the SS4A grants. They're about to roll out these demonstration grants with NHTSA. It's like there's a lot of momentum right now, and we're kind of at a Rubicon moment that it would be really helpful if we got everybody singing on the same page for once. I think that'd be pretty cool. That's really all we're looking at. This isn't a sales pitch, I guess is the way to say it, because we're not trying to sell it to you. We're just wanting you to say, yeah, this is badass. We'd love to be able to use it, please.
To clarify that up front, we weren't asking for money for it. That would have been. Yeah.
And I'll tell you my only hesitation, and I think Matt made a very good point, analysis by paralysis. And it sounds like y'all done a really phenomenal job at developing this. We constantly ask our providers to add another data field. And I heard everything you said and liked it. I just have hesitation. I think you said there were 60 elements that they're putting in it. Did I hear that right?
So there's up to 60 depending, but that's the EMS side and the hospital side. There's about 30 EMS fields. All of those fields are from the SEMSTAR data set. All of those fields are NMSIS compliant and should already be in your product. So we're not, if the medics chart correctly and fill out the blood that your medical director should be asking them to fill out anyway, like the blood unit ID and what were the vital signs before you gave it? What were the vital signs after? I mean, these are pretty standard fields that they're going to fill out automatically. So you're not asking your medics to fill out something more, except on the inventory side, which you guys it sounds like you're already doing in blood premium. So if you're doing blood premium and you fill out your EPCR correctly, you're kind of done, except for the performance improvement. And that's part of the AABB standards. The pre-hospital whole blood standards require that performance improvement on 100% of all the cases. So some of this is kind of just enabling you to do it in a simpler and easier, more efficient way for those AABB FDA standards.
It's really the hospitals that have to.
I got you. Yeah. And Crystal's on the call, isn't she?
But she's at a skills lab today, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if she can.
I'm here.
Okay, do you have a feel for how many are using the BloodCom app now? Because I know there's variations across the state of tracking and cold chain and coolers, and we're trying to steer toward more standardization, but we're not there yet. Do you
Yeah, it's not a lot, Lee.
Okay.
I would say less than a half dozen of the programs that I know that's exactly what they're using.
Okay, so the rest are just using something else, basically.
That's right.
Okay.
As we found that to be consistent with Colorado and some other places. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to continue to support our kind of homegrown inventory app. It's mature, it works well. And so that'll be like option A, option B. If you're in a Delta cooler and you want to use the BloodCom Premium software, use that. We're agnostic to the inventory system. And if there's a third inventory system that shows up somewhere, we're open to discussing that with whoever developed that and give them our API so they can match to that as well. We're open to that as well.
Thanks.
I kind of think this is one of those weird times in EMS where everybody hasn't done their own thing yet, and then we have to try to figure out a way to get everything to work together later. This is one of those times when I think it's 2% of the EMS in the country are given blood. We're early to the game, and if we can get in front of it, I think we'll all be happier in the long run without having to have, a bunch of registry discussions about 50 state registries and sending to a national registry and all of us reporting a bunch of data that we don't, paralysis by analysis again.
Even internally in the state.
Yeah, inside the state, by region even. We're pretty excited about this. Anyway, thank you guys that was an hour. You probably had more stuff you wanted to talk about in this hour than me.
It was very interesting. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before they disconnect, there any other questions online?
Okay, good. We'll get out of your hair. Y'all can talk about us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric, and your and Strack team. We appreciate y'all.
I think this is something that I want to take to our archive coordinator to try to get them into, because we don't use the blood count app, but we've got our own system in region two of doing it. So I think it's important to get them on board with it as well. Get their buy-in and see what their thoughts are on.
Yeah, and we have our big, Magina has all the trauma leaders next month at our meeting. We can get them bought into at least being because the hospital's the ones that actually got a line.
Yep.
They got to do something different.
Yep.
So if as long as they're good with saying, yes, we'll agree to be the point of contact for the hospital to fill it out, then I think if you all agree that we could at least participate since there's no cost involved, then I don't see any reason to not do
How
it.
much
Yeah.
does it cost?
Did they drop off? It looks
Yeah.
like they did.
Mhm.
Okay. Hey, I don't, are you running the point with them or is Crystal, who is?
Me, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I really like what he said at the end, that it's equally as much information from the hospital as for EMS. Did you ask them to send us what that data set is?
They did, I think.
It's in their
on the-
resource document.
Yeah.
Abby sent out.
Okay, I missed that.
I
Okay.
I saw it, but I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just looked at it while they were
Okay.
talking, because I was curious, so I did.
It's not a whole lot, and part of it is when he said like a max field is because if they didn't get any more blood, then there's no drop. Like if they got more, if patient received more blood, yes, then there's a drop down of
Right.
like how much, what and how much if you put that in. And again, I do liken it to the CARES registry, because a lot of that was just pretty cut and dry, simple,
How much of it's duplicate to if you've got whether it's DMV or Joint Commission or ISO from the hospital side? Like how much of this is just the entering the same information that they're gonna have? So is it a way to,
redundant.
yeah, is it a
information,
bunch
yeah.
of redundant
So-
information?
Matthew Perry, I'll never forget your
That's
name.
right. Real friends name is, it's Nailer Bong. It's okay.
So that's the $1 million question is that, like the EMR was supposed to be like the holy grail of, and we know it is interoperable with nothing. Cause that should be an extract.
I always
It's
say
able to
epic
be
is
pulled
too
in.
epic.
Yeah. Yes, there's so many of them, there's the big one, Epic, that a lot of the bigger hospitals use, but a lot of smaller hospitals that's overkill for. So now you have all these different proprietary brands and there's no consistent extract to be able to talk to that. But so we're not gonna overcome that barrier right now in a timely fashion to get true aggregated outcomes data on what does administration of pre-hospital blood in Georgia look like. So this is at least kind of, at least a bridge to be able to start doing something together and have. The one thing I wanted to ask them that I totally forgot about is if they get other people on board, will there be some kind of dashboard where you could go log in and look at these like generalized outcomes based on the data that are being collected, like not patient level data, but just like here's the number of overall number of times it was given, what was given, did the patient require any more, like all the things that they're collecting, can they give that back in aggregate? And then maybe you can have something to access your, I'll ask him about that. But yeah, it's probably redundant, but there's just no way to extract it. We have that issue with our trauma registry is over 300 data elements. And I think in my time at Grady, I worked for 2 years and spent like $30,000 and got 10 of the 300 able to be extracted from the EMR over to the trauma registry. Like it's just So, you know, that's where I think AI will eventually come in and help us with something like that, but we're not quite there.
Actually, what Gabby sent yesterday, the PI form with the data points is attached to her email yesterday, so you didn't have to go.
Okay, so it was on the
It's
yesterday.
a spreadsheet.
Here's a spreadsheet that has.
Printed everything from the early one, okay.
The spreadsheet wasn't the original one, it was
Okay.
the last one, it's like LTO.
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
So,
But I sent it again yesterday.
Okay, great.
so it has tabs, it's got the EMS tab, and that's the EMS fields, and it tells you, it's a,
Okay, I'll go back and
an
look.
MSIS field, you don't have to pull it, and then it's got a hospital tab that tells you the fields in the
Okay.
hospital.
Great. All right, any other discussion on that? We'll try to get back on the agenda.
So what are they looking for from us? They don't cost anything.
They just want, like that you want to be in on it, basically. And then I think they'll figure out how to maybe identify a couple, not to look directly at you, but because you're already using something that will soon be integrated. Or I don't know, I don't want to say that, I mean, maybe they,
From what he said, they're looking for more people to show interest, so when they go to the feds, they can say, we got this many providers in these states that are all on the same page of where we want to go with this.
So there is a cost to it, and that's not what he's asking for us, but I mean, if for some reason 10 companies pop up, then
if for some reason, say that again.
so there is a cost, but that's just not what he's asking for us right now.
There isn't, I mean, I don't think they've established any kind of pricing structure. They're more or less trying to, they built it for their own use, but now they've got other people that are interested.
Take
Yeah.
out the federal level.
To get it funded. But I think in my mind, the more people that they have that like, to me, if what he said about, you know, we could give access for one of your services to get in there and play around, like, that's the thing, like get in on the ground level, because then you're kind of hooked in and they're gonna want some data to show the feds, look, all of this is working. So I don't think there's gonna be a charge to us to get in on the ground level. Now, if the feds don't bite or whatever, and they want to keep moving forward with this, how they got so much money. And I mean, you heard them say in Colorado, they have a funded, pre-hospital blood group, you know, I mean, it's attracting a lot of attention, so.
Okay, any next steps? Okay. All right, everybody should have got the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as they were approved? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, anybody against approving the motion of the minutes as they were written? All right, hearing none, the minutes were approved. Did you get everybody?
Yes, I got Jeff Adams motion and then Terry, second.
Great, thank you. Liz, you give an update?
No, I just, wanted to spend my time on that.
Okay,
That's the biggest thing.
Is
I
Tim
don't
on?
really have any.
Yes.
Dr. Boone, are you available to do your update?
I'm here. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So, take a look at, we've got, kind of end of the year report here. We put in, about 100 new or replacement units during the year. And we have support deliverables that we're showing here on the report that give you an idea of the kinds of activities that go on and the issues that we're still running interference and interface for the individual agencies. And with the suppliers and of both cellular connectivity and also the equipment. Nothing particularly outstanding about any of those calls. Everything is running along about the same way it has in the past. So this year is not remarkable compared to last. Then we get to the total unit usage. Here you can see how many units we have currently active versus how many total there are out there. And what percentage of the units that are in the field as of the end of the year were active compared to the prior quarter. And it's not a significant difference. It was a little bit of a dip, but part of that I would is that we're in the process of transitioning some units from MG90s to the new XR80s. There have been some supply chain issues, and sometimes we order things and they come in a week or two, and other times they're taking 6 to 8 weeks to get the units. So that has some effect there. And then there's also been a significant amount of leadership change and ownership changes and things like that in the field that have affected some of the counties. The good news on this is that we're going to jump up a bit, because if you go to, well, let me ask you if there are any questions on that slide before we move forward. Okay, we look here, counties with their own Wi-Fi or GIS systems that are not on our system. Well, Cherokee was the biggest of those with 26 ambulances, and we're in the process. We have the first 5 units out there now, being installed this month, and the next 21 about to be ordered. And Long County is joining as well, and we've already sent their units out to them. So they'll be coming online here very shortly as well. So that's a significant jump in the number of units going on. We're still trying to figure out what to do and how to influence the AmeriPro folks in their area. As you see, they've got several counties where they've taken over units, and we need some input really to think about how do we approach this AmeriPro group. All right, that's where we stand. And then in terms of 3B there, the MG90 quick reference guide, we've still got that quick reference guide out there. There's a new one being produced for the XR80s now. But right now, what we're doing is having the PSS is receiving the units, getting them set up, configured, and sending them out to the agencies as a plug and play, really simple installation situation. So we're minimizing delays and reducing confusion with that kind of thing. So I think that's a good move. But we will have a do-it-yourself reference guide out there shortly for the new units. The airtime log, Verizon, we're running about 343 units. That's going to continue to drop down a little bit, I think. AT&T FirstNet is sitting pretty stable. They're not increasing or decreasing. Southern Link has, as you see, taken a large part of the state, but as we migrate to the 5G equipment, Southern Link does not have 5G capability. So T-Mobile and Verizon are the 5G units or agencies that are most likely to grow. And T-Mobile is aggressively doing that and giving us a system that allows us to manage the units and the usage of time and therefore the cost. So it's pretty encouraging. I'd like to see, there's a new contract being negotiated with GTA right now on the rates. I don't know what that's going to come out to be, but apparently it will be for roughly the same for all of the agencies or all of the carriers. Okay, this is just a summary of where the funds went for the FY25 equipment budget that we reallocated at the end of last year or the year before last for last year. And you can see all the equipment that was purchased, and it took we spent that down to the $23.38 level. Then the next one is on purchase order 34-421, we purchased during the last fiscal year $139,000 worth of equipment there. And then if you go down to the next slide, this is the rest of the equipment for Q4 and the FY 2026 budget year to date. This is where we stand as of the end of June. At the end of June, we had $9,400 left. It'll be a little tighter than that by the time it all gets finalized, and because of just year-end timing situations. So in 2026, we increased the fleet coverage to 1,352 units. 1,075 are currently active at the end of the year. The others are in the shop for one reason or another. The vehicle was wrecked, or the vehicle has some mechanical problems, or it's being changed, updated, new truck, transfer equipment, etc. We've added Chattahoochee, Long, and Cherokee counties. And we made those decisions were made, so I put it in FY 2026, although the equipment's actually going in to, and most of the expenses going to be going into the 2027. We've been deploying the XR series gateways with 5G coverage and potential telemedicine capabilities. And those seem to be working fine. We're not having any kind of problems with them that we've identified yet. And we've initiated automatic usage-based fee structure for T-Mobile by implementing their control center site, which allows us to identify units that are like sitting in reserve or in the shop, and they're not using coverage or very much coverage at all. And we can actually have the monthly rate dropped automatically down to $9 a month from the $39 a month. So it's a pretty good little tool for doing that. Upcoming next year, follow up on bringing the Samsara equipped ambulances and others that agencies are using their own equipment and they don't want to switch to our technology. At least we want to be able to bring in their data for GIS purposes for use in the SOC in case of an MCI. And so we're still working on the way to do that. We've got a road forward, but it's going to take a few more months to get it field tested and to get the pricing and all that stuff worked out for it. I don't think it's going to be expensive enough that it will impact our budget in any way significantly. I don't think we'll need any additional funds, but we'll find out fairly soon. We're going to continue converting to the XR series gateways and increasing our online percentage. That's effort that I'm working on, and continue efforts to bring more jurisdictions onto the system, wherever we can, and then continue facilitating migration to the 5G coverage. 5G just gives us better range and faster speed and more capability for telemedicine kind of activity. And as we add more and more requirements for cellular coverage in the field, we need more and more bandwidth capability in the trucks. So that's what we're continuing to look for. Any questions, comments?
I don't think so. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Is Crystal still on? Hey, Crystal, did you have an update on education?
I do have an update for you. Yeah, I'll be just kind of brief and give you an overview of just kind of where we stand with the programs and what it looks like. First, I really wanted to thank everybody for kind of getting the word out about the initial education grants after our last meeting. I know I provided everybody with how many people in your region. We've got so far, we're up to 30 initial education grants that have been approved. And that was a big boost from the last time I discussed it with the group. So I wanted to thank you for that. We're continuing to do our orientation sessions for the initial education grants. The next one is going to be on the 17th, and that's at 11 o'clock. The link is on the education page on the GTC website. We're going to add kind of an addition to that. It's primarily going to focus on initial education. But we are going to be discussing the NAEMT grants as well. Those grants are open. The application is on the website, and I want to say we have 7 or 8 of those applications that have come in. So my request for the group this time will be, will you please share that those grants are open? We've got another 25 to 30 of those grants that can be approved. And just as a reminder, that includes PHTLS or ITLS, GEMS, AMLS, EPC, or TECC. So we'd love to have more of those applications. It's a pretty straightforward process, we think, on how to manage that. So again, the application's on our website. We've got mobile simulation kicks off next week, so really excited about that program. We're going to start, our first day is in Franklin County, then that's Tuesday, then Madison County, Clark County, and Morgan County. Those will be our first 4 of that series. We'll be doing kind of a heavy debrief of what that looks like and participant feedback, and then we're going to roll that out with scheduling the dates for the rest of the states. So that'll be an additional 24 dates. End of July, we've got our first of the tactical programs. So that's going to be hosted by Fannin County. Again, the link for registration is also on the website. I think it's half to 3/4 of the way full right now, but spaces are available. I think that's the 24th, 25th, off the top of my head. The Fitch and Associates Leadership Program is going to be in Region 2. That's going to be in August, the end of August, I think the 24th, 25th. We still have a few seats available in that one, but it did fill up pretty quickly, which was really great to see. But that registration is also still open. And then there's a couple of things. Well, last thing I'll talk about is the cadaver lab. I apologize that I'm not there in person with you guys. I'm down in Vidalia. We're doing the cadaver lab down here this week, and it has been just a really great couple of days. Southeastern Technical College is hosting us. I think by the time we wrap up tomorrow, we anticipate to have impacted 100 to 110 students. So it's just been really great. We've had lots of great instructors filter through the program. Our hosts have been amazing. And so we're really proud of the way the program looks right now and the feedback that we're getting from the students. If you guys remember, we're doing a post-course survey for everybody on every program that we do. So we're asking, this group has talked about before complications we're seeing with needle decompression, for example. So we're asking those questions, and we're also able to provide feedback to students. If we see, this group performed lower on knowledge-based questions on bleeding control or airway management or whatever, we've now got the ability to follow up directly with those students with some additional resources. So we won't let a deficiency stand. Our next class is going to be at Metro in Region 3 at the end of July. And I think, Lee, I think we filled that program. We might have 2 or 3 paramedic spots left, but I think we primarily filled that program in under 12 hours. So some additional labs for Region 3 is probably going to be on my wish list for the next pass because we have had just a tremendous outpouring of interest and registration for those. So there were a couple things that I wanted to bring to the group that's come up that I had discussed with Courtney, and he was going to bring to the group for some feedback and maybe some decision making. The first one was initial education grants and whether fire departments who are non-transporting agencies should be eligible for the grants and how that should work. And I guess he and I kind of discussed some clarity around the situation, and I just wanted to bring it to the group. It's my understanding that these are workforce development grants, and that's kind of how we develop our workforce is by hosting these classes. And I think he was asking for just making sure that there was communication between the Zone 911 EMS provider and the fire department that was putting on the class. So that's a kind of one discussion point for the group. The other one was we had a request that came out of Region 5 if the RTACs can apply for the NAEMT grants. In our language that we had discussed early on, that was also going to be to our 911 agencies. And historically, Region 5 has done a great number of those courses. And so they've requested if they could continue to, they've got a fiduciary to manage it, if they can continue to put on those courses for the region. And so I'm happy to take any questions, but that's kind of my overview for the group.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, so I have a limited awareness, and Courtney didn't say anything to me about it this morning when he called. So, Crystal, Liz, is he wanting us to take action on the education component for non-transport agencies?
Yes, sir. When I talked to him, it's been a couple of weeks ago now, but he wanted to bring that to the group for discussion and potentially a vote, just so I had some clarity on moving forward with the process.
Okay, so
and this was specifically, it wasn't like to extend to non-emergency services. These are still 911 providers. It would just be the non-transporting fire agencies.
okay, so in the past, I'm taking that we have through trauma funding, whether it was through you, Crystal, I don't mean you personally, or through GIMSA, we had funded non-transport agencies. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so now the question is, do we continue to do that, or do we only provide it to the 911 transport service? Is that right?
Yes, sir, to the Zone 911 EMS provider. And I think the other context that's maybe important for the group is that I still have grants available. Nobody who qualifies for the grants right now has been declined the opportunity to receive one.
Okay. And you can only apply for one a cycle, is that correct? Or can you apply for more?
No, so we've got we still have grants available. So if somebody's putting in for a second grant, I have not declined that. But additionally, the services that run multiple counties, those were approved pretty quickly for, if you run 3 or 4 counties and you want to do a course in each one of those counties, I've approved that as well.
Okay. So I'm going to make an assumption since Courtney's not here. If we don't take action or somebody doesn't make a motion, then we will continue to do what we've been doing in the past. Does that sound
That's
reasonable?
kind of what she's been operating on.
So is there discussion or a motion?
So I'll just say, as far as the fire department, they are the first responders, and that's our task is to improve patient care across the state, particularly in rural areas. And obviously the first responders are a major part of that. So I'll fully support doing grants to our first responders. The only ask that I had in years past was that the zone provider be aware that they're holding these classes in their zone. It doesn't happen very often, but there have been in the past where your zone provider and your first responders kind of butted heads over some issues. And because these are EMS grants, that was the only thing I requested, was the zone provider be aware that these classes are being held. And they have the blessing of them, because the money's supposed to go to EMS. But
So Crystal, from your experience, is the zone provider aware when a non-transport agency is asking and getting?
In most cases, there's a great cooperative relationship. I have only run into one where there was some concern with the EMS agency versus the fire department. The fire department wanted to create first responders, And honestly, guys, that's not a debate of the inter-county politics that I want to be involved in. It's if people want to teach initial education for workforce development, that's the lane that I'd like to stay in. To Huey's point, I'm very happy to add just kind of a line item on the application that do you have support of your Zone 911 EMS provider, or are they aware that this course is happening? Or, I can add any of that to the application and I'm happy to do so. But I would prefer not be in a position where I need to call up the Zone 911 provider and say, hey,
Right.
how's this working? You know?
So Huey, you had a little bit of a part B. So aware, and then you said support. So is that, are you making a motion?
To Crystal's point, if it's on the application, then I'm okay with that. I just think that the zone provider needs to know what's going on in their zone. Again, this is supposed to be EMS grant money. And so that's the only reason. I fully support it. I think our first responders across the state, this is only building the numbers of first responders and eventually EMTs, in the workforce. So I fully support all that. I've just always wanted to make sure that the zone providers were aware of the classes that were being taught in their respective non-religions.
I agree with you. I mean, we've got one of our counties is very rural. And there's 2 official fire departments, Jefferson County, and the rest are volunteers. Is that right? It's like 6 or 8, and there's all kind of little things. And we do get some part-time folks from there that pick up on the ambulance and work. So I'd be fine with giving that to a fire department.
I'm a little bit familiar with the background on this one right here, and it is the one that has been being funded in the past or whatever. So it's not something really out of the ordinary from historical. This is not anything new or any deviation from what has been done in the past or whatever. I would say let's continue doing it. We can always look at the data later on if we think
So you
something.
need a motion, Lee?
And I was gonna say.
I mean, it sounds like it's already the way it is. We're not
I'd say
changing
leave it
anything.
like it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think Crystal, and I want to speak for you, Crystal, but I think if you guys want to just extend it for the rest of the fiscal, she just doesn't want to keep approving and then somebody is displeased with the fact that because our historic data to look back on doesn't really reflect whether or not, it just lists the county, so you don't know if it's a zone provider or a fire-based service. So if you guys are okay with just allowing her to continue I think that's just what and she's gonna come back to you with the data anyway. Am I capturing it, Crystal? You just want permission to keep doing what you're.
I do. And, if we get to the point where we have competitive grant applications, I think that that's a different conversation with this committee. But yeah, that will be my request is just, can I continue to approve Zone 911 providers or 911 providers, whether it's fire or EMS for initial education grants? And if the group is good with that, that's the way I'll proceed for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Let me ask you a quick question. If you were making a motion to clarify this, what would your motion be?
That's a really good question because that was what Courtney wanted to do was to bring this to the group. So a motion to allow us to continue initial education grants for 911 providers in the state. I think that's all I really want was just, approval from the group that you think that we're on the right track and doing what we should do to support these programs.
Okay, so would anybody that's online or in the room like to make a similar motion or any other motion that will clarify this?
Do we need to say non-transporting specifically in the motion?
I think this is really about I make a motion that we continue funding the initial education programs as has been described here. We just continue just like we're doing.
Well, Matt made a good point. Continue our current practice.
Continue
Yeah,
current
continue our
practices
current
for the
practice.
remainder of the fiscal year. Because there's the ask.
So
That's the motion.
did you get it?
It's all recorded.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Because we've had a lot before the motion, but is there any discussion? Any discussion online? Okay. I'm not sure I can restate the motion.
I would be try.
All right, so we'll do this by the nays. Is anybody against the motion that Terry made to clarify the availability of funding for initial education? Is anybody against that in the room or online? Okay, hearing none, the motion passed. Crystal, anything else?
The other was the question of NAEMT courses for the RTACs. Again, that was a request that specifically came out of Region 5 was could they apply for those grants and make them a regional offering?
So I'll make a motion that the NAEMT grants be offered to the regional artifacts.
So,
And also,
sorry, Hugh.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do the same thing. If you're against it, please speak up. Anybody online against it? Anybody in the room? All right, motion passes. Anything else, Crystal?
Yeah, well, there's always one more thing, right? Thank you very much.
Too much.
I know. The next one I'm not going to ask for a vote on. I really would just like some opinions from the room as we kind of craft what the cadaver program is going to look like. At our previous meeting, I discussed with the group some of the excited feedback that I was getting from paramedic programs specifically on they continue to face challenges in getting into operating rooms to get the 5 live tissue intubations. And as previously discussed, the cadaver programs, those first 2 days were designed as a continuing education and not necessarily an initial education program. So I've gone back to the drawing board. I've worked with Experienced Anatomy, who's providing the specimens, and we've put together what an airway only program could look like. This would be a mobile program where essentially a refrigerated enclosed trailer could bounce across the state, 3 different locations, and do intubation, needle decompression. I've called it more of a workshop. My vision would be we kind of get a host for that, but Experienced Anatomy brings the staff, the equipment, the specimens, and the trailer, essentially where this would take place. And we would schedule the location and the blocks of time where paramedic programs could schedule 90 minutes to bring in a group of, however many students to facilitate those live tissue intubations. I really just wanted to kind of open the discussion on if that's something you guys would like for me to pursue further and to kind of include in our offerings for cadaver labs.
Cost for that, Crystal, you said was what, around
$30,000. And it would be, if we're going to do that, I think we'd need to do it twice a year so that we could hit kind of the programs as they filter through their airway sections. And that's something I can do some data collection on. I can reach out to our paramedic program chairs and see times of year that would be ideal and things like that. But essentially the whole program, if we were able to offer it twice, 6 locations throughout the year, would be a $60,000 ask.
do you need a motion?
I really just wanted everybody's feedback on if that's something you wanted me to pursue. But if you guys are in support of it and would like to make a motion, I would welcome that.
Is it the wrong time of the year to make a motion, a financial motion?
Crystal, do we have, I mean, I know you had some,
We should have some of the.
yeah, I just can't remember exactly the amount. Katie's on vacation, so we can't get the.
We do have money that's encumbered to Experienced Anatomy since they're providing our specimens already.
It's kind of the same bucket, so.
So I make a motion to approve Crystal's proposal, which is 2 for, I don't know, the dollar figure, $60,000.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I got a question.
Please go ahead.
How long did you say that lab would run at these locations?
So it's
How
going to
many?
be an 8-hour day, but we would schedule time blocks at around the 90-minute mark where paramedic programs could say, I want the 8 a.m. to 9:30. The next group shows up 9:30 to 11. That's kind of what we have envisioned right now. But the plan would be for them to kind of pull up at one location, do an 8-hour day, move to the next location, if that's, a couple hundred miles away or 5 counties away, whatever, they'll set up shop for the following day, and we do a total of 3 days in each one of the 2 programs.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Done to address the underlying problem about getting them.
Like, is there anything being done to address the underlying problem here of hospitals, operating rooms, whatever, not allowing the students to, is there a different angle that needs to be taken?
It's a great question.
Is it becoming a $60,000 problem? It's becoming a $60,000 problem.
Right. And
We'll get these paramedic programs through this year. It's not one of the reasons I made the motion, because I think they have become dependent on getting those live innovations through the cadaver labs or whatever. And so I think this will at least get them, all the ones that are in the hopper and in the works right now. I agree with you, and I think there needs to be a change in it, but this will get all the current students that are in programs, I think, with innovations.
And I support that, Terry. And my question for Crystal a while back was paramedic programs. I know it's been a long time since I went through one, but part of your program was to do this. And so now we're having to pay to do it. Where are these programs coming off the hill? Yeah, to cover what they were supposed to be doing anything. And so you're right. Now, I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, it has to be, the medics have got to get it. But there has to be some solution down the road somewhere, I don't know, to where maybe the paramedic program start puts a skin in the game to help.
What if we tell them no? If we tell them no?
Yeah, then.
I mean, if they want to be a paramedic bad enough, they'll get in the operating room
Well, I tell you, and to Matt's point, because it's a very good point. The schools that are trying to partner, it's not for lack of effort.
Yep.
It's the hospitals and competing interests, and even all the way down to the compliance departments. And so it's a very angled web of getting through, because most of the hospitals that are partners, they're either wide open and everybody's going to them and there's competing interest, or they've got some maze that only certain organizations or entities, maybe it's a better way to say, can navigate through, not because of lack of effort, but for everything from compliance to everything else.
Liability.
Yeah, all of that.
We had,
I mean, the last thing we need is another hurdle to delay getting paramedics on the street.
Yes.
Okay,
Seems like
so any other,
it's changing.
any other discussion on this? Liz stepped out, but Terry, I think the only thing yours might need to say is what the one surplus, it was, you said something about the funding. We're not looking to take it from something, it's residual.
Yeah, there should be some residual funding with those things.
So I don't know if that
January.
motion should say residual funding, that to utilize residual
EMS
funding.
education, but
All right. Any other discussion on it? All those anybody against the motion? We'll do it that way again. Anybody online? Anybody in the room? All right, Crystal, you're 3 for 3. I wouldn't push your luck.
I'm done. Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Remember, Courtney's back next time. It'll all be no. So you can take that out.
In that case, maybe one more thing. Just kidding.
Okay, Liz stepped out, but ladies, I got no brief on this next one. EMS funding update that's got Courtney by it. So do y'all know?
No, I think he just gives an update of how the FY budget's going.
Okay, do we have that?
Yeah, no, it just started July 1st.
Okay.
So
It's going great in 8 days. Yeah,
9 days.
going great in 8 days.
All's good.
Okay. There's a lot of residual for Terry Spence. Okay, equipment update grant, I can do that. Y'all have any slides for that?
Okay.
So some of you, many of you are on the equipment grant group. And so a couple of high points for this year, or discussion points that we need to vote on. Terry championed, I believe, last year, developing a minimum floor for areas that didn't have a peak ambulance count above X, okay? And so, we approved that last year. And so what we're looking at here, there was a recommendation from the group to move that minimum amount they received to 12,000. Terry, do you want to add anything?
No, that was it. It was 10,000 last year, so there was additional revenue this year, so, we just proposed to bump that minimum floor from 10 to 12. And then in future slides, you'll see that even the per truck, the larger agencies that had the per truck amount, it's actually pretty equal. Yeah, there it is right there. So, the per truck agencies would still be getting $2,200, which is over the $1,700 from last year. Minimum floor agency would be getting an additional 2,000. 29% increase for one group, 26 for the other group. One group is 47% of our total providers, and the other group's 53%. So you didn't really get any more in the middle than that. So it's
And I
$12,000 shot in the dark. It turned out to be right in the middle.
And I'll just caution the group that if we approve this, that those numbers are flexible on what the group approves originally for the equipment grant money. And then it's all mathematical after that. So don't look at the 12 and the 2237. I can barely read it. That's not a guarantee for the next year either, because the group's got to approve or recommend to the trauma commission the total equipment grant money. So don't go out selling. That's going to be the number for the future, basically. So this, because it came from a subcommittee, is already a motion and a second. So now what we need to do is to vote on raising this funding floor from the 10,000 to the 12,000. So any discussion past Terry's comments already? Okay, hear none. We'll do this the same way. Anybody online against it, please say so now. Anybody in the room? Okay, that motion is approved, and that will be the, I guess, the floor going forward this year. So we had a robust discussion, as we always do, about the equipment list. If y'all will remember, I guess last year, the year before, we started whittling down the equipment list from literally the state approved items and a multitude of things that have been approved over the years. We whittled that down. I think we were fairly successful with it last year. We did approve a couple of 3 or 4 things on the special equipment or special request list. That process will remain there again this year. And so the group recommended from last year to add these items to the approved list for this year. And that was the Merit Omni Pro X jump bags, the ring cutter, which my understanding was a specialized ring cutter because it was for titanium rings, if I remember correctly. That which made it unique. CPR mannequins, and then BLS instructor packages, and then remove the following items, which was the gauze pads, the eye gels, cervical collars, ACLS instructor packs, and that's pretty much it.
And that's from the removed list.
That's from the removed list, right? That's exactly right. So again, this comes as a motion already from the subcommittee. So any discussions on that?
Hey, Lee.
Yes, sir.
I know there was some discussion last year about services using the money for body cameras for training purposes. And one of the directors in our region has asked if he could come and do a presentation for the committee to look at it and see how they're using it and there's actually 2 services in 7 that currently utilize that, and he just wants to show how it's being used and what they're doing in their service to improve trauma care.
Okay, I'm trying to refresh my memory. We had a request last year. We did not approve it though. Okay, I'm not gonna, in fairness to Courtney, I'm not gonna say yes, they can come do a presentation. I'm gonna let Courtney make that decision, but I think it would be appropriate for them to do a brief presentation on it.
Okay,
Courtney chooses to let them do it.
okay.
And I'll follow up with Courtney later this afternoon and tell him that came up. Do you mind if I tell him just to get in touch with you?
That'll be fine.
Okay. Because I know what'll happen in the next meeting with them presenting, Courtney's gonna say Lee approved it, so. I'll let him do that as a chair. So any other discussion on this? Anybody against it? All right, so this is approved. That was the last item on it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then just reviewing the timeline.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking to send out the save the date to the EMS providers, just letting them know the application period's coming up. Opening September 1st, and then submitting special equipment requests by October 2nd. Then the committee reviews those requests on October 8th, and then the application closes on October 31st.
Okay.
That's it.
And when you say committee, you're talking about this group?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, just for clarity though. All right, the next one, I may need a little help with this one, Liz. Courtney talked to me briefly for this one about it. Do you know about it? Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I can walk through it, and will you help me so if I currently understand it correctly, all the EMS agencies to be eligible for the equipment grant must attend 50% of the meetings. My understanding is that 9 of the 10 regions have both in-person and electronic meetings. One region does not offer electronic. I think it's been discussed here previously in some levels. And so my understanding from Courtney is there's been a question raised by somebody in that region as to why is electronic offered, not offered. And so Courtney would like to see that it's standardized because EMS is required to be there 50% of the time, that it's a requirement that they be offered in all 10 of the EMS regions, both in person and electronic. And I don't know if you've got more details than that.
That's pretty much sums it up.
Okay, okay. And I know I talked to Terry, we had a council meeting yesterday, and Terry was talking about how in Region 5, there's several people that made comments to him that it was so far that they'd never be able to drive because they're just such a small service that they just can't spare the staff to drive half a day somewhere. Is that not correct?
That's right. And we have good attendance in Region 5. You know, some direct, we have participation from directors in the RTAC. We don't have any participation in anything. It's just a small service. The directors on the truck, and you know, they're not big organizations, but we have good attendance, and I feel having the virtual option supporting. So I support in-person meetings, but you know, virtual is a common option. You know, it both has their benefits and both have their weaknesses, but I concur with consistency across all 10 regions.
And y'all, I'll be honest with you, the way we do this meeting, Pete and I tag team it oftentimes because it's hard to hear sometimes on the owl. And but there's the importance of being face to face. But by the time and y'all are no different, by the time I leave at 7:45, I'll get to Marietta today at 2:30. Matt, you'll probably get back to Spalding at about the same time. You know what I'm saying? So I just personally, I think now that the world has changed after COVID, face to face is so much better, but it's difficult. I'll just say that at best.
So that we're asking them to attend 4 meetings a year.
No, currently you have to retain 50% of the meetings, so that would be 2 meetings a year.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, we do it quarterly, these
Yes.
meetings. And that my understanding is, I guess Region 1, they want everybody there in person.
Yes. Everybody else offers an electronic or in person.
Correct. So is there a requirement that any of those be in person?
No,
Can we say that they be required to offer electronic attendance, but they must attend at least one physically a year? Because I do agree, I think there's a lot to be said for having face to face, you know.
Jeff's snapping his fingers. He's got opinions.
well, let's do this. We're as we often do, we're having the discussion. Well, we're having the discussion that we don't have an emotion. So Is there a motion that somebody would like to put forward? Is there a motion anybody would like to put forward? Right now, the requirement is you attend 50% of the meetings to be eligible for the equipment grant. That's basically the requirement. And so 9 of the 10 regions offer in-person and electronic. There's one region that doesn't. Courtney had it on the agenda for him to talk about. So my belief is he wanted to standardize it to where everybody had to be electronic. That's my understanding. Yeah, it's an electronic option. So does anybody like to make that motion?
You just did.
I can't.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Okay, so
I'm going to move that we require all regions to have at least, to have an in-person and a virtual option.
okay, is there a second? Okay, back to the discussion point.
Okay, so now that we've made that motion, can we say that they attend at least one a year and that kind of satisfies the region that wants everybody to be there in person?
You want to modify your motion?
No,
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of tough. And I'm with you, Huey. Yeah, I love in person too. I drive up here, it takes me an hour and 15 minutes, but I can't hear and I can't participate, so I'm here. But let's say something had happened today and I couldn't come, so I had to do the virtual. Well, then for whatever, we got busy, I was on a truck, I missed a meeting. So I'm down to my last meeting of the year. And small service, something happens, I'm toast for putting in my application because I can only make one. I couldn't make a person, an in-person visit. So I kind of struggle with requiring that. As much as I like it, I struggle with requiring it.
Any other discussion, y'all? All right, everybody clear on Terry's motion? John's, sorry. I've kept up pretty good till this.
Harry,
Yeah.
Harry, John, whatever.
Okay. No other discussion. We'll do the same thing. Anyone against the motion as stated, online first? All right, hearing none. Anybody in the room? All right, thank you. That motion passed. Blood utilization committee, there's dots there, so anybody comment on that? Okay, and I didn't get any direction from Courtney on that at all.
It hasn't met, it doesn't have the chair.
Oh, that could be a problem. Okay, all right.
So will have to be addressed.
Okay.
What's the need? What's that committee gonna do? This is me just from
Yeah.
foundational background.
The original, and Liz and Crystal, y'all jump in, but the original, it was Chad Black, if I remember correctly, and it was trying to get blood awareness out there and some standardization in the processes.
Well, to develop the grant.
And develop the grants.
Yeah, the money.
Right. And then it struggled at a point for some reason. Chad's no longer involved with it at this point, from my understanding. We still have grant money allocated for it, but there's not been a process developed for receiving the grant money. I mean, it's that simple, basically. So blood utilization committee might not be the right title for it, but
If I get like the official appointment, I would do that.
okay, we'll let Courtney know. And
Cause that's gonna be a huge,
right.
Are you willing to chair it?
if officially appointed, we haven't met with our new chairman yet in our region. Jamie Anderson's gonna take that up once.
And I think you missed before you got here, Scott's in the process of retiring.
And so
I'm in future.
I'm
from
filling
Fayette.
in for Scott.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll call Courtney.
all right. And then,
Is there money in that?
yes, I don't remember how much it is. Is it like 80,000?
500,000.
Oh, it's 500,000. Okay, there's a lot of money in there.
Yeah, so I mean, that it needs to be addressed in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, money just sitting there, we could be using it.
And one of the conversations was not only for initiating programs, but also to help reimburse existing programs, because nobody's ever getting paid for their,
No.
they're not breaking even on the programs, basically.
And I was reading back through the minutes, that was where the additional 250 was added. back
Was
in.
to help.
Was not on the startup cost,
Yeah.
but to maybe identify some type of structure to reimburse the reoccurring costs or whatever
We
associated.
originally put 250 in with the thoughts of having 10 $25,000 grants to help services initiate their own program. And then we put together this group to put the process in place on what services need to do to get to that point, and be able to do that. And then it was kind of stalled out from there.
And Crystal's done a lot of work on the startup and kind of pass through of it too, so.
Did we ever make it to an application process on that?
No,
No. So it's great timing to reinvigorate that. Any other discussion? I don't want to cut it off. Any other discussion?
related to blood, before you leave it, can I just, follow back up with Eric and just say that we're interested in serving as an early implementation partner, just so they know there's interest.
Oh,
You guys are-
the folks
With
earlier.
the folks, the STRAC folks who presented this morning, and that we'll identify a couple agencies that are willing to participate in the pilot. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, we
Is everybody
don't, we don't mind participating.
Okay,
Sure. We'll participate. So is that okay with the group?
Yes.
Okay.
Another reason to reinvigorate the I think it's supposed to be called pre-hospital blood committee, I think.
Do you want a motion for that? Or are you okay with just?
Yeah, if something we would just say that to let the STRAC folks know that George is interested in serving as an early implementation partner and identifying a couple pilot
You're
agencies.
making that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, second.
So,
Any other discussion? Anyone against us partnering with them just as an initial discussion and deeper look? All right, that motion passes as well. Does anything, Matt, not putting you on the spot, is there anything on education from Scott? I know he's been real involved with it. Is there anything? Okay, all right.
Lee,
Marge?
a quick
Yes.
update on that Scott asked me to provide.
Sure.
We met a couple of weeks ago after the Region 4 conference, and one of the things that we talked about was the success of the cadaver instructor program that we did in Athens several weeks back, and feedback that we received from that group on the importance of continuing some in-person instructor development stuff. You know, one of our initial education or our education funding includes initial education for new EMS instructors, and Scott and I had discussed, is there an opportunity there to get current licensed instructors together to talk about best practices, maybe some panel discussions and things like that? So that's kind of where we left the conversation, was exploring if we could do a couple of those around the state, and working towards currently licensed instructors they need. Courtney had asked us to develop that toolkit. That would be a series of PowerPoints and schedule templates and things like that. And as our work group continued to meet, what we realized is that a lot of those things are available by the publisher. We can't dictate the textbooks that everybody is going to use, but rather equipping our instructors with how to use resources currently available might be a good use of that committee's time. So that's kind of where we left the discussion.
Okay. Thank you. March falls, I think Courtney usually says it's continuing and it's almost over.
I have a great update.
Oh, good.
Money is expended for it, and it is now transitioned to what the great folks at AU are doing, which is the RIT, what they call it the RITS program, the Rural Trauma Simulation Program, and they've done at least 7 pilots, I think, and they're increasing capability in the rural areas to support this program. It's fantastic. It's already got several abstracts out there and manuscripts, so evidence-based, and we love it. It's attracted national attention, so about how to, kind of incorporate, the higher level centers with the rural centers and improving capability. And they've been amazing partners to work with. Dr. Erica Zimmerman Mabes is amazing. She's a trauma surgeon at AU, and she's headed this up, and it's going to expand. It's also got funding coming. It's not just Trauma Commission funding supporting it. It's State Office of Rural Health is supporting it as well. So it's got sustainable funding, at least we think, for the next 5 years. So great evolution of that program. We're so thrilled.
So are the rural hospitals made aware of it?
Yes, they partner. Instead of just doing like one facility, what they're trying to do is get somewhere where they can pull in from like 3 facilities. And what's great is they've had great participation, multidisciplinary participation, which is such a challenge to get like rural ED providers. Many of you know, a lot of these rural hospitals are staffed with bigger staffing companies that staff the ED. So they're either working somewhere else, they're on vacation, or it's their time off. They don't want to come in and do this stuff. But it's had really good uptake by rural ED physicians, advanced practice providers, nurses, and EMS. It's been a true multidisciplinary effort. And I loved seeing pictures of Dr. Mabes in her jeans and a t-shirt, just like showing how to intubate, put a chest tube in, and the improved level of confidence with procedures, things like life-saving procedures, like placing a chest tube, something that can really buy time when you're in a rural environment trying to get someone who's sick or like a penetrating trauma on to the big urban trauma center. It's huge. So yeah, she's done a great job with that, and growing the program more and more every year. Look forward to it.
Any other new business? All right, our next meeting is October 8th. And that will be here primarily to talk about the equipment grants, being special requests, along with anything else that I guess Courtney needs to put on the agenda. I won't credit, Liz took 1 hour and 4 minutes. I did it in 56 minutes with y'all's help. So we got a lot done. We got a lot done. So no Snickers, that's right.
Is there a motion to have you run the meeting?
No. I had a very short warnings call. At least I got a warning call. And then what y'all don't know is I got the gray and my TPS on my car came on. So I turned around to go back and get another car versus changing a tire. So it's been an exciting morning so far. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion is there.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved. I'm ready to let y'all vote on it. So y'all have a great day.
You too. Safe travels, everybody.
Yeah.